Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, Master Trainer and Weight Management Expert, Narado Zeco Powell. I got my man on the show for you today, Matt Dawson. And Dawson is awesome. Let me tell you about this man. He's the founder of Dawson's Peak Foundation, multiple world record holder, extreme adventure athlete, motivational speaker, and author of a book that's about to come out in January, Strength in Surrender. So this is the kind of person you want to surround yourself with. You know, when they say you are the company that you keep, or show me your friends and I will show you your personality. Well, this is the kind of person you want to be around because he just breaks through roadblocks, right? And he helps you with that mindset and the tools so you can break through those roadblocks as well. And that being said, Dawson, my man, welcome to the show.
Hey, listen, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate that generous introduction. To be honest with you, I don't know if I earned all of that, but I'll certainly take it. So thank you.
Well, you got it from me. You got it from me. So I have given it to you, regardless of how humble you may try to be.
I feel much better about myself right now, so I appreciate that.
But tell us a little bit about your book, number one, and also tell us about your personal journey.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the book, it's my first book. I'm very excited to have this out. It's called Strength in Surrender, and it's coming out on January 7th, the ebook, the audiobook, and the paperback. And this is really a book about personal evolution. It's about my journey, it's just a memoir from early age, until now, starting Dawson's Peak Foundation, setting multiple world records across mountain climbing and ocean rowing and polar traverse, desert crossings, all that kind of stuff. But more importantly is most people are never going to do that kind of thing. So the question is, why the hell should I have an interest in this? Because I didn't have an interest in this stuff before I started doing it. And the answer is, it's about all of us. It's about overcoming struggle. It's about, feeling alone and feeling lost and misunderstood and not seen and not heard and separate and all these kinds of things, where I struggled with just debilitating high-functioning depression for decades. And I just kept it inside of me, and I didn't share it with anybody. If you saw me from the outside, you never would have known. But I was in so much pain all the time. I mean, literally for decades. I was stuck in my head. I couldn't get down in my body. I couldn't feel things. I couldn't connect to people. I couldn't love. I couldn't receive love. And so the book is just about that evolution of a man finding himself, finding the ability to reconnect with himself, to connect with others, overcome all these mental, emotional obstacles, just like the physical obstacles. So it's really a story about all of us. I think everybody's going to enjoy. And, in the book, it's all about, you can read all about how high the mountain was and how cold it was and how heavy the pack was and all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, there's like my daily or my expedition journals. So very raw, emotional stuff I never thought would be published is now being published. But then also just a lot of lessons that I learned on a daily basis for, training thousands of hours alone in the mountains. And then bigger things like these, what I call meditations, which are like the big pillars that I use in my life to, try to make it a little bit better. And then, living a life not only for myself, but being of service to others, kind of in a very long-winded nutshell. That's the overview of the book.
But I have more for you, though, because the title is Strength in Surrender. So break that down for us.
Yeah, it certainly is that's really what we're trying to get people to understand, is because when you hear about somebody, setting records and climbing mountains and pulling carts and all this through deserts, you think it's just about being tough all the time and just breaking through obstacles and breaking through walls and overcoming and strength, all like this, the traditional connotation of strength. And what we're trying to get people to understand is the greatest victories that I've achieved and the most growth that I've ever experienced has actually come through surrender. And surrender is not giving in and giving up and going along, but it's finding ways of meeting our needs in more beneficial ways. And the way that we surrender is we face our greatest fears and challenges, and these are like on deep personal levels. And you move towards those fears and challenges, you allow them to come into you, and you don't run from them. As you experience them to their absolute fullest, whatever is in there, you experience it. But most importantly is you allow yourself to release it and then let it pass through you, because to fight it is to feed it. It's kind of like, holding on to a burning stone. Is you got to understand at a certain point, you got to release that thing in order to let it go. And, we look about, how do we surrender effectively? And it's really, four things. The first is connection and understanding that we're not alone. And typically when we're in these dark, challenging places, we feel separate from others and we feel we're alone and nobody can understand or no one's gone through it before, which is just which is a falsehood, that we're telling ourselves. The second is attention, is where we place our attention. Typically, because we're all risk averse by nature, we're going to focus on what we don't want instead of what we do want. And it's about getting that shift over and focusing on the life that you do want rather than avoiding what you don't want. The third is genuine appreciation, because so far, in today's society, I think we're losing that concept of appreciation just far too often. And, focus on kind of what the world can do for me and what others can do for me. But to sit back and understand, what we have and the opportunities that we have, it's just tremendous. And, the people we have in our lives, to really appreciate that. And lastly is trust, is that we trust in ourselves, that we have the ability and we have the strength to see this thing through. And, when people hear surrender, they think, oh, that's going to be easy. And I can tell you this, it is more difficult to surrender than it is to climb Mount Everest. It's more difficult to surrender fully than to row across the Atlantic Ocean. I've done both, and I can tell you. And so that's really the challenge of getting people to kind of understand that and incorporate that into their lives.
So, with saying that it's more difficult to surrender than accomplish a task, that's some of the tasks that you've completed. What do you say are the things that hold people back from surrendering, and how can they get over these?
That's a great question. I can tell you the number one thing is fear. Is we are all just so scared so often on so many levels. We're scared of failing. We're scared of being exposed. We're scared of we present something and people see something else. We're scared of not being enough, but we're also scared of having more power than we realize, because it's much easier to sit back and say, hey, I'm this powerless, hapless victim and let life happen to me. But when we realize that we all, not just me, but all of us have so much more strength and capabilities and tenacity and persistence, that we want to understand, because with that accepting of that strength comes responsibility. When you have more power, you have more responsibility, because now you have the responsibility of applying that power, continuously and in the proper ways. And that's what really people have to get past, is that fear of all these things of, oh, it's going to hurt or it's going to be a challenge. I'll tell you what, life hurts. Life is supposed to hurt. We're here to grow, and growth hurts. It's challenging, but that is why we're here. It's the key is not to run from it, but to embrace it.
So, tell me what you think about this phrase, because I'm in the health and fitness industry. And a lot of times I hear people as they, in their 30s, get to their 40s, and they'll say, aches and pains, it's all part of aging, or I'm not 20 year anymore. I can't do what I want to do. Or, it's okay to have a dad bod because I'm older and, I'm busy, or whatever the case may be. So when you hear those phrases, what does that sound like is kind of happening in your brain that might be holding you back?
It sounds like a bunch of BS to me. What it sounds like. Look, I didn't start this quote unquote journey I'm on until I was 38 years old. I didn't start training full time until I was 40 years old. I was 242 pounds. I was 17% body fat. Just to get to the starting line of doing all these things is I dropped 44 pounds to 198 and 10% body fat, to 7%. That was just to start doing everything. And it's what it comes down to is, and look, my body hurts all the time. We're sitting here talking, and literally my knees are throbbing right now because I had a big workout this morning. It comes down to priorities. Is look, you don't have to. I train on average probably 21 hours a week. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But obviously, most people can't do that. That's just the life that I've created. But it's about priorities, in our lives. Is look, you can have a dad bod. You don't have to have 7% body fat and be 220 pounds or whatever it is. But it's about coming up with the right values and the right priorities and focusing on those and not the excuses. Because I can tell you, if you have a purpose in your life, if there's a path that you want to seek out and stay on that path, you can find a way to do it. And anything that kind of carries you away from that is just an excuse.
I agree with that. I had a conversation with someone just recently because the last, I would say, this year has been a little on and off year for me with even my personal goals. And I told them, I said, my nutrition hasn't been on point, my training hasn't been on point, and I'm 41 years old and I'm used to feeling like Superman. And I don't feel like Superman anymore. And then she looked at me, she said, well, it's just aging. And I said, well, I don't think so, because the one caveat that was my working out and my nutrition, and that's changed. So I can't say it's just aging. And even when I started training again, I didn't feel the same. And the same thing, she was like, yeah, it's just normal. It's just, you're not going to feel the same. It's just because you're getting older. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's my lifestyle and
Yeah.
my nutrition. And I think a lot of people fall into that mindset of, I'm not what I used to be. I can't do this anymore. I mean, who stops growing at age 30? Like, if say you live to 60, 70, 80 years old, like a third of your life, you've given up already. Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. So I like the fact that individuals like you who can say, look what I have done. I mean, you started to train at age 38, right?
Right.
That's crazy. And then not just training, but you move from 17% body fat to what was it, 7%
Yeah, to
body
7
fat?
down. It's lost 10% of it. Yeah.
That's impressive. And most people would say, oh, that's a young people's game. We can't we can't do that. Well, obviously it can be done. So
Yeah.
which leads to my next thing, because you said it's harder to surrender than, say, to climb Mount Everest. So in a nutshell, all the things that you've gone through and the things that you have learned, how can you then tie that into mental toughness? And how can the things that you learned help us to get there?
And look, I think you said some wonderful stuff there, and I think that's a great segue and a great question. Is it comes down to understanding and accepting that we're all capable of so much more. Is consciously and subconsciously we put these guardrails on our minds with regards to what our capabilities are in various scenarios. And also it's put on us by society, by people trying to sell us products, whether it be medication or diet plans or this or that. And obviously, sometimes some of that stuff is necessary or critical or required, all that kind of stuff. But generally, these guardrails are placed on us by others who are trying to benefit in some way by us getting confined in these things, these I don't know, lanes, for lack of a better term. And just understanding we're all capable of so much more, and that our lives are not just about ourselves, but about how we contribute to the world at large. And we're not trying to be the best version of ourselves just for ourselves, because to act only for yourself is a sin. It really is we're here for two reasons: is to grow, and then to use that growth to contribute to the elevation of others. So I think that's another thing is understanding the role that we want to play. Because look, there are plenty of days that I don't want to train, and I train full time. And I can tell you is I don't want to get off the couch every single day. But I think about, hey, if I don't get off the couch today and I don't do what I'm supposed to do, I'm letting down my family. I'm letting down my supporters. I'm letting down other people because I'm not fulfilling the role that I'm supposed to fulfill. And I think by having that greater level of perspective, then it kind of helps us get outside of ourselves, because we all get caught up in our minds too much, sometimes. And then lastly, is just having a level of appreciation. Is so, too often these days we're looking around saying, well, this person has this person's going here, they have this new toy, I don't have that, or they can do this and I can't do it. And we look at what we don't have, but just take some time every single day. And I'm not trying to sound corny here, but I'm just telling you, this is how it works, is step back and appreciate what you do have in your life. And in our acts, as we, to develop ourselves, is showing that we appreciate these things and these opportunities in our lives. Like, all this stuff works together.
True, because one of the quickest ways to create anxiety, start comparing yourself to others.
Exactly.
And you can quickly create an anxiety. So that's 100% true as well. So no, Matt. So my apologies, my friend Dawson. I'm excited there. So Dawson, now tell my audience, how can they get in touch with you if need be, learn more about your work? Of course, your book is coming out and is going to come out in January. So on.
Yes, certainly. The easiest way is my website, which is just Dawson's Peak, PEAK.com. That links to Dawson's Peak Foundation, which is the 501c3 that you mentioned, where I've done all these activities to set their different records. And then on Instagram, it's just at Dawson's Peak. And then the last thing is through the foundation and Project 7 for Soldiers, so I'm doing all these activities, is we are partnered with two of the highest rated national veteran charities, which is Hope for the Warriors and Gary Sinise Foundation. And they're receiving 100% of the net proceeds that we've raised and that we continue to raise. So I haven't made a dime off of this since 2018. Nobody in my organization has. This is all 100% of the net proceeds are going to those groups as a way to kind of put our money where our mouth is and to try to be of service to others.
Right. Thank you so much, Dawson. That's awesome, everyone. Thank you. I'm glad he was on the show. He has so much good information. I can't wait till the book comes out in January. Of course, it's going to be available anywhere books are sold. You can also get them on Amazon. I mean, easy. Just remember, Strength in Surrender. I'm pretty sure if you look up his name, Matt Dawson, the book would probably
it'll
come
pop up. It's a trademark term for us, so it better pop up.
There you go. Exactly. So thank you, Dawson, for being here, everyone. I love you. Go out there and love your world.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, my apologies. The website will be in the show notes, and the show notes will be in the description of the podcast. So I apologize for that. So you can click on the show notes, and you can get access his website as well. With that being said, thank you so much, everyone. Go out there and love your world.